Well, hello there and welcome to Travels with Geordie. If this is your first visit, my name is Peter Knowles and I live on this classic wooden motor cruiser here in Victoria, British Columbia, along with the loving memory of my pup Geordie, all the while fixing it up for some pretty ambitious cruising. If that's the sort of thing you might find interesting, please consider sticking around and subscribing. I'd love to have you. And here we go with the follow-up episode for repairing that rotten corner of the cabin top on MV Geordie. It went so well. It just gave me such confidence in advancing on, you know, the swoops. Anyway, let's jump back in time and look at that. And good morning and welcome back to the shed. We'll pick up where we left off here with this rather fun project that, like many, turned into way more work than I had anticipated, but that's fine. I've got this replacement tail all faired in and lined up properly now. So just a little bit of tidying up here. I'm gonna sand this all down and we can start to get some wood on here. All right, then now to install this. Because this is going to be hard up against the plywood bulkhead here, and it's supported right away, there's not much structural strength here. It's really acting more as to fill it in and to create a nailer for the ends of these strips. So I'm going to do a combination of bonding and screwing to get this in. Now, of course, this is just going to make a squidgy mess, such as the nature of using glue. And up to there, and then about to here. Okay, and then along here near the top. And here near the top. Straight edge to get this just perfect. There we go. Very nice. Well, I have a nice selection of yellow cedar, which I'll cut into 1/2-inch strips to work up the curved section here, and then of course just plain old marine ply for the flat section there. Now of course these are all going to have beveled edges to come up and around the corner, and perhaps you can't see from there, but the first one has to be extra beveled to sit against the cabin side. So let me get started on this and we'll see how it goes. Oh, I love the smell of yellow cedar. Now I'm going to square up the ends so that later when I'm cutting with strips and stuff like that, I don't have to wonder if an uncut end is square. So that's just so simple. Okay. And some ripping. Right, so I'm going to begin by ripping some 1/2-inch strips off. And then to cut a bevel, I'm just going to tip this all over to an arbitrary angle because it seems I'm better at guessing angles than measuring them. Right about there. And what that'll do, it'll cut this into 2 pieces with a diagonal so that one side of each one has a bevel, but the other side is flat. No harm, they'll still go together on the curve. I don't really need to put a bevel on both sides. It just makes it simpler and there's less wood wasted. So with one bevel on 2 pieces, they'll just go together like that. And they'll follow the curve around. Technically, there'll be a slightly high spot here that I can easily just sand off. And you can see they sit against the curve just fine. Now these are actually narrower strips than the rest of the roof was made with, but due to the nature of the size of the wood I have, this is the most economical way to cut it up and achieve the same thing. And then, yes indeed, all fixed up. Did I show you guys? Did I show you fixing it? Just a quick update on the 23 gauge pin nailer. I've taken it apart, and here is the drive pin, the main drive pin that actually has the piston at the end, runs down through the cylinder and drives the nails out. Well, it was very clear to me as soon as I took this apart that, well, it had broken off up inside where the cross pin that's in there holds that onto there. Anyway, no problem. These are available new. Basically a new piston with drive pin all in one piece. $85 Canadian for this, but anyway, let's put it all back together and we'll be back working with this. So I'm going to use just a little bit of fluid film to give this a bit of a head start, and off we go. I'm filming this with my phone because I neglected to bring the GoPro up here, so I have to do this one-handed. I know this goes in this way, and well, that's as much as I can do one-handed. You'll have to just follow up a little later. And there we go. So if we watch carefully, we can see the drive pin pop out the bottom there properly, and everything is hunky-dory. Clean it up and put it back together. And here we go. All right then, I am not going to bond this first strip to the cabin side to ease my life next year when I replace the cabin side. There's no sense having it all gooped up. Mark and cut. Well, I can tell you, I am very, very pleased with the way that turned out. Absolutely, absolutely beautiful. And it'll be solid as anything. All right, so a piece of plywood, and this is pretty much wrapped up. So we've got a bit of a compound curve here, of course, because of the sort of egg shape of the back of the boat. And that's not something that marine ply is terribly adept at. So I'm just going to make sure before I bond anything here that we can actually make this turn. Yeah, I think that's going to be okay. A little fairing later. Okay, a little more goop. Well, I can say I am really thrilled with the way this is going. Better even than I imagined. Now, there's a few things that you might be wondering about. Total structural integrity of this. What I had planned to do is once this all bonds and sets up and I fair it, I'm actually going to put some small stainless steel screws along into the bottom edge here, just because once it becomes a homogeneous unit with the fiberglass on it, that'll just make sure that this bottom edge stays super stable. You might also wonder why I was happy to do a straight butt connection here of all these splices. Well, that's what all the previous repairs had done, and by the time this is fiberglassed, I really don't think that butt splice is going to be a structural liability. Anyway, so can't wait for this to set up enough to sand it. I have a huge cleanup to do in the meantime, so I was kind of sloppy here. And good morning to you all. This is set up nicely overnight. I cannot wait to get the sander on here and see what this ends up like. Spent a little time this morning messing around with different techniques, even more different techniques. The best technique for removing whatever's on the top here seems to be heat gun, soften it a little, plus the fine tool with the linoleum knife. It's still only a few square inches a minute, but that's what we're gonna do. Anyway, let's get the sander on this and see what it ends up looking like. Well, that is just absolutely beautiful. That sander is a demon. I had to switch to some much coarser paper. I have some 60 grit, but it's not the Abernet, therefore it wasn't as good as Dust Collection. But on the whole, it's worth it because it's just beautiful yellow cedar sawdust that is being left behind. Wow. Wow! All right then, this actually worked out so much better than I even thought it was going to. The yellow cedar was a perfect candidate for this. This will never ever rot. Mind you, I'm hoping it'll never ever get wet again. It all fared up nice. Of course, by the time all this stuff is off of here, there'll be a final fairing to be done for the entire cabin top before the fiberglass goes on, but we'll look into that in time. This won't need very much. Just to follow up on this sander, again, every time I use it, I'm so impressed with it. The Bosch dual mode, super whatever. I'll put a link down below in the description about it. I've done that before, but if you want an amazing sander, this is it. Now that reminds me, I've actually promised you folks many, many times to create a database of all the tools and products and things that I use, and I've finally done it, or at least I've got it started. So I'll put a link to that down below as well. It's basically a database, mini reviews of everything I use and try and play with and work with, and it's all done in a pretty clever way. In fact, it has links to where you can buy it, and that's almost always Amazon, but sometimes Lee Valley, etc. And those are not affiliate links, but the Amazon links are affiliate links, which means if you buy it through that link, I'll get $1 or so. But I also link back to the episode where I use it. So it's a quick way, and in fact, it takes you right in to the moment in the video. It's kind of cool, actually, where you can see me actually using the tool. In this case, it'll probably link to a few minutes ago. I haven't yet put this in the database, but I will before you see this. Long story short, have a look down in the description. Anyway, you can go to travelswithgeordie.com and you'll find it from there. Okay. But what's really got my mind percolating in the last day or so is next week's project, which will be building the swoop in here. And probably, I just haven't really fully designed it yet. It's sort of going to happen as I go along. So if you have any ideas about that between now and then, I can show you a picture of what it's supposed to look like. Yeah, so you see what I mean? So technically this mahogany will continue through into the face of that. This piece of brow trim will come down, and this cove, this curve of the wheelhouse deck will come down, and then above that will go the helm that you've all seen me having built already. So exactly how I'm going to make that all work, and little stations in here or something, it's going to be fun. It's really going to be fun. I'm looking forward to it. Listen, if this is the sort of thing that you enjoy, please consider subscribing. And if you really enjoy it, consider giving it a thumbs up and possibly sending it as a share to that good friend of yours who may also find it interesting. See you next week. It's not that bad.
That's so funny.
Well, hello there, and welcome to the Travels with Geordie Beer of the Week. And more importantly, let me please introduce to you my sweet, delightful love and girlfriend, Andrea, who I've known for about a year now, a little more than a year. And that has involved a fair amount of commuting back and forth from Vancouver. But just this last couple of weeks, Andrea has moved aboard and committed to the lifestyle of wooden boat live aboard. Was that a good idea?
Yes.
So far. So far. A special perk that came along with Andrea is?
This is Frida. She's about 10 years old, and she's a miniature poodle.
About 9 or 10 pounds.
No, about 9 or 10 pounds.
To be fair, a pretty good boat dog, with the possible exception that she doesn't like me getting too close to Andrea. Anyway, a little growling here and there. Anyway, you realize this life is full of a lot of sanding and varnishing.
Lots of noise.
Lots of noise, lots of power tools, which you're going to dive right into, aren't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Fantastic. Anyway, so I'm absolutely thrilled that Andrea is now going to be part of the show, and I hope you all are as well. Let's get straight to the beer. You growling at me already. As you've been noticing, the last little while, the theme has been non-alcoholized beer. Now, this has quite a stir around this, right? Mm-hmm. Everyone's talking about this. This is Guinness Zero. This is the famous Guinness Draft, zero alcohol. Have we had one of these already?
We have, and it's probably the best de-alcoholized beer we've had so
Isn't
far.
it amazing?
I think so, yeah.
Now, it's cool that Andrea and I are both actually Guinness fans from way back, so that works out really well. And it is very true that this is 98%, 96%. It's really close.
Yeah,
to
94%.
Okay, so not quite as close as I thought. But anyway, it's lovely. And I think at $3 a can?
$3 a can.
$3 a can here in Victoria, British Columbia. That is a pretty good deal. So cheers to your very first beer of the week and your first beverage board MV poem. Cheers. Okay, we have paperwork to do.
Yes.
You know how this works?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so we have to give away a t-shirt to this fine individual. Could you tell the folks at home who that is?
Absolutely. So PL-PS2PD, please contact us because you've won a free t-shirt.
Congratulations.
Cheers.
Cheers to you. And the final thing we need to give these folks is a word of the week, and it certainly represents how I feel, and that is happy. Oh. I am so so happy. In fact, thrilled. In fact, overjoyed. But the word you need to use is happy, and I hope you're happy too.
I am.
And I'm sure you're all happy for us. Till next week. Cheers.
Cheers.